You told me earlier that the timing for our show today is pretty good because they just started filming MIB4.
Yes. I can't wait.
But, like the last one, Will Smith and Tommy Lee Jones were like barely in it at all because it was a flashback kind of thing, and I hear that Chris Helmsworth is going to be in this.
Yes, and I forget the woman's name, but she's somebody we know too.
Yeah.
But
again, Jones and Smith aren't going to really be in it that much.
No, they're going to do cameo appearances. That's about it. Yeah.
That's a shame. I like them in this.
I do too.
When the first Men in Black came out, I was kind of appalled because I know about the Men in Black stories, and I didn't know at the time that there was that the movies were based on a comic book series, I guess, and I've never read that, but I have seen the movies, and I thought this whole thing is based on the Men in Black, which are actually accounts of very scary situations, and terrifying situations for UFO witnesses. And I thought, they're making light of this. How screwed up is that? Until I saw the movie. Then I was like, oh man, this is great. But
fun time, definitely.
Yeah, definitely. I love these movies. But anyway, folks, that's what we're going to be talking about today. We're going to be talking about real Men in Black encounters, and that's coming up on Black Lotus. Conspiracy theories, the paranormal, UFOs, aliens, and all things strange and unusual. This is Black Lotus. So I think where we ought to start with this is we ought to start with, what these, I call them things rather than people, because we don't even know if they're actual human beings, but what they look like and what they're supposed to represent.
Yeah, and not underneath the skin either, because some people even say they're lizard men in disguise.
Yeah. Because the reason for that is because a lot of reports of this, is that their skin is very plastic, like plasticine,
like a mask type looking thing, except their lips.
Yeah.
I think that's very odd. And they, of course, the weird thing is too, they have no facial hair, including no eyebrows.
And no eyebrows. Yeah. And I've heard that oftentimes they are bald as well.
Yeah.
So
total no hair and no facial hair at all.
Yeah, and they tend to be tall, from what I understand. But the reason these things are out there apparently is because people make reports about UFOs and such. And they go public with it.
Right.
And next thing you know, they've got these people knocking on their door, and intimidating them, threatening them, and just basically telling them to shut the hell up.
Yeah, and from what I hear, not only intimidating, they almost feels like people say they feel like they could read into your mind and actually know what you're thinking.
Yeah. And and again, people think that they may be actually aliens, which is that's. I don't know.
I know, with all the stuff that's happened to us, I'm surprised we haven't run into Men in Black yet.
I was about to actually mention that. And because I've never seen one, and I've come very public about my abduction encounter. And you made a report to what you thought at the time was Project Blue Book.
Yeah, but it was whatever the continuation was after that. I don't remember now.
And you never had an encounter with these things. I don't think that all UFO witnesses see these creatures, but
that we know of. We could have gotten one of those little zap things.
Could be. I've never heard of an encounter where they actually do that. But,
well, right, because if you did, then things obviously not right. Yeah. It's not obviously working very well if they're using one of those.
Malfunctioning. But anyway, so the Men in Black encounters, or reports, have been going on since the late 40s. I believe it was 1947 was the first documented encounter with these.
Right, with the Men in Black, definitely.
Yeah.
Which is also kind of strange because 1947 was also the first recorded UFO sighting by Kenneth Arnold.
Was it 47? I thought it was 45. When was Roswell? That was 47, right?
Right. I don't even know now.
Because the first UFO sighting happened before Roswell, and then suddenly you've got a UFO crash. Yeah. I mean, I want to say it was like 3 months later, something like that. So yeah,
it was Kenneth Arnold as an aviator who saw them. Really? Saw several of them.
Yeah, up in Washington, right?
Yeah, I believe it was up in Washington.
Yeah, yeah.
So I think it's kind of strange that the same thing, UFO sightings, and all of a sudden Men in Black appear.
Yeah, yeah.
It seems very coincidental.
You know? But I've also heard that some encounters with Men in Black have nothing to do with UFOs at all. But it's people that are reporting some sort of conspiracy, and they may have hit on something, and suddenly these guys show up. You know, I've heard of a couple of encounters like that. But anyway, so the first report for Men in Black happened in 1947, and it was reported by Harold Dahl. And you were telling me that you went down a rabbit hole with this thing. It was so involved.
I was not expecting this whatsoever because I've heard this story. We've done a Men in Black before when we were doing Pop Views, and so I'm like, okay, this is the story of the man and his dog and his son and all this other stuff. And then I found some more documentation and stuff that was an elaboration of the whole story and how before it was all basically bridged, an unabridged version of this story.
Okay.
And it was much more involved than I thought. And we all know the basic story is him, 2 workers, his son and his dog were on a boat. They used to take the logs and unjam them during the log jams when they were floating down the rivers. And then all of a sudden they see 6 donut-shaped UFOs about 100 feet wide with 20-foot holes in the middle.
Okay.
Flying around over them.
Okay.
Okay. These things start forming a pattern. They do a UFO at the bottom, and then the 5 of them doing circles around the bottom UFO.
Okay.
They're doing this for a little while, and then another UFO comes down from the middle and joins the one at the bottom, and all of a sudden they hear a big bang. And at this point, he reports seeing what he says he thought at first was 1,000 newspapers coming out of the holes in the middle of the ship.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
What it ends up being, he says, is dark and light pieces of metal.
Okay.
One of these supposedly falls down and hits his son on the arm, burning him.
Okay.
And another one actually kills the dog.
So they were hot.
They were hot, like molten lava type hot.
So yeah, and it killed the dog, and I heard that you got damage to the boat.
Yeah, a lot of damage to the boat, which it was verified at one point.
Was it?
Right. It was verified, and then when it was re-verified, the damage didn't quite match his description of what they said had happened. So there's a little speculation on what happened there. But we're thinking that from what I've read is that most of the damage wasn't exaggerated. It just wasn't detailed enough.
I see.
You know how that happens when reports are made.
Yeah, yeah.
So anyhow, after these things collide or whatever happens to cause all this metal to fall, they kind of just take off into the middle of nowhere. Now, while all this is happening, of course, the waters are getting choppy and stuff. So Dahl takes the boat and brings it to the dock. And while they're there, they take pictures of the UFOs as this is happening.
Of the UFOs themselves.
Right.
Okay.
So they get UFOs and stuff like that. Okay, so after this all slows down and stuff like that, he goes to his boss. And his boss takes the camera to go get the film developed. When the film comes back, it is because, of course, his boss sees this damage of the boat. He wants to know what happens. So he takes the camera, gets the film developed. The film has like radiation spots all over the film.
Okay.
Okay, but there's definitely pictures of strange craft and stuff on it, as testified by both the boss and, of course, the people that were involved in it. Now, the boss still doesn't believe what happened because, it's UFOs. He thinks he makes the whole thing up and made these pictures up. But he agrees to go down and get rock samples for him. So they go and get rock. He goes and gets the rock samples. As he's getting rock samples, he sees one of these ships return and gets over his head.
Okay.
So he knows that maybe now this is not such a BS story.
Yeah, right.
So, anyhow, he gets these rock samples, he sends them off, and he gets a call saying that someone would like to talk to him about the incident that happened. And he hangs up the phone, and he barely gets to the front porch, and this guy's coming up the steps already.
One of the Men in Black.
One of the Men in Black. I guess his dog started going wild too, which I found very interesting. You know, his normally calm dog went crazy when this thing came to the house. So they went out to breakfast, and instead of asking him questions, he actually sat there and told Dahl his whole experience of what happened, like he was there.
Okay.
How does he know all this information? And I've seen this in other reports too now. Anyhow, they leave. A little while later, about 2 weeks, guy comes back to his house, wants the pieces of metal. Now, the metal had been sent off to be researched on by 2 people. And these people were UFO investigators. And somehow, of course, these pieces of metal have now disappeared. It was a cigar box filled with them.
Okay.
Now, they've disappeared, but supposedly they did get analyzed by some Army people, and that they reported it was actually just aluminum.
Huh.
So I don't know how that all fits in, but some people are saying it's not. That was found to be unearthly metal, and some people saying it's aluminum. Either way, there was actually metal there. Someone's admitting that there's metal.
Okay.
Excuse me. So, anyhow, the officers that come down to talk to him about these metals and stuff basically tell him that it was aluminum and that, you know, we'll hear your story, but we don't think anything's true. Well, I guess one of them decided as they were leaving to admit that, you know, there might be something to this story. Well, these 2 officers get onto the plane and take off, and they had engine trouble. The wing ends up breaking off and jamming into the engine and spinning them out of control, and they both get killed.
Oh, okay.
The 2 pilots made it. They parachuted out and they made it. But those 2 did not.
Really?
With all the information about this case.
Wow.
So, anyhow,
that seems conveniently suspect.
Of course. Suspect, of course. So, now the FBI has come to Dahl and told them that, well, we think it's a hoax. We know it's a hoax.
Okay.
But you know what? We're not going to do anything. Long as you do not talk about this again, we will not file charges against you for claiming false things that caused the death of 2 officers.
Well, the FBI really did make a report on this, and we're showing this right now. And it's a very short account of what actually happened. And I mean, just basically, it's an account of what he reported as his UFO experience, but I mean, there's no mention of the Men in Black or anything like that. But yeah, so I mean, there is an FBI report on it. I mean, they deemed it, I suppose, important enough to
actually make a
report on it. You know,
what's strange too is that his son disappeared right after all this happened.
Oh, did
no one know what happened to him. And then recently they found him, I believe it was in Ohio or something. And he says that he doesn't remember how he got there and refuses to talk about this incident.
Is that right? Really?
Yeah. I was like, what, you know, because that was my first thoughts was, let's talk to the son.
Yeah, right, of course.
So, but he disappeared. Nobody could find him.
Wow. Strange.
A lot of stuff. Like I said, I went down a rabbit hole on this, finding out all this information because this is not the little story I heard in the beginning.
Yeah. You know, and something we didn't bring up here is that this occurred, like I said, it happened back in 1947, and it occurred at Maury Lake, or Maury Island, rather,
right.
in Washington. So, yeah. So, and again, I think it's interesting that the first UFO witness was by an aviator that was flying around, I think it was Mount Rainier, and he sees these UFOs, and then next thing you know, there's a UFO being reported by this guy,
right?
You know, in the same time period, you know.
What I found interesting too is J. Edgar Hoover, who was president at the time, actually believed this story.
Did he?
He was not he believed it. So
yeah,
that tells you something too, I think.
Yeah, but yeah, I think it's interesting that, you know, the first report of Men in Black happens to be so, I don't know, you can make a movie out of this thing. I mean, my God, you know, what a hell of a story. But anyway, let's go on and let's talk about that incident that happened in Niagara Falls.
Oh, that was crazy too.
Yeah. This manager, I guess he was a manager of the Hilton there.
Shane Savar.
Yeah, he was out one evening, and he saw this large triangular silent UFO.
Yeah, him and the
and
security guard.
the way he described it, it sounds like what I saw. And would they actually have a name for these things now? And I'd be damned if I can remember the name of it, but it's like T3 something or other. Have you heard about that?
No, I'm not sure.
Yeah, it's supposed to. It's the name for the triangular UFOs, you know, and so anyway, yeah. But yeah, so he sees this thing, and then what happened then? I mean,
Well, a couple of weeks later, he actually ends up having men in black show up at his hotel room.
yeah, but
Or
didn't-
hotel room. I think it's hotel.
wasn't there another? Didn't he witness another thing like that the next day or so?
Right, him and his security guard witnessed it twice
Okay.
out the window the second time.
Yeah.
First time he was wandering, the second time was out the window with the security guard, or vice versa. The first time was the security guard, and the second time was him out the window. But yeah, he saw it twice.
Yeah, but you were mentioning that the men in black showed up, and they actually got them on CCTV as they're walking into the Hilton, and they came in to question the guy.
Oh,
But
yeah.
let's take a quick look at the video for that. So it's at Niagara Falls, and you know, there's a depiction of the craft that he witnessed. It was a triangular craft on both occasions, wasn't it? I think.
Right.
Anyway, so here they come walking in, and you know, they look like the typical men in black. You know, they're tall, they're all dressed in black, and their facial features are
Very plain.
very plain. You know, but anyway, the guy wasn't there, I guess. And
No, they questioned the bellman and the maids.
yeah, and they were saying that they were kind of like very intimidating.
And the maid is the one that actually said too that it felt like he could read into my mind and knew if I was telling the truth or not. And you know, they swore that they weren't there, and they were very angry that the people were not there that they wanted to speak with.
And I think it was the maid that reported that they were speaking in some sort of foreign language that she didn't understand.
I think it was the maid. Yeah.
Yeah. But
Very, very strange. And you look at the tape, and they do look very tall. You know, especially if you pay attention to the man in the background at the mailboxes.
Right.
It makes him look tiny. You don't realize how big they are until you see him, and then you look at, and again, their face just looks blank.
yeah. So let's take a look at this again one more time. Just and I'm sorry, folks. I should have slowed this down, but the actual footage of them, but I didn't do it. But yeah, here they come. But see, this is what Ralph's talking about. See, the bellman that walks out, he looks very short compared to them.
Right.
You know, but
They almost look like they're stretched, especially at the end of that video. How when it gets up close camera, they really look tall.
Yeah.
Some people estimate it's about 7 foot tall.
So did you get any conclusion out of this?
You know, nobody has a conclusion for it. They said the film's real, and it actually filmed at that point. It was, you know, from the security cameras. It's all been authenticized. Nobody just knows if it actually is Men in Black or not.
Yeah, right.
And they never showed up again. They never came back. Nothing's been, you know. So I don't know what happened. I think a lot of times too, the Men in Black go to intimidate you, and then they get what they want that way. But I mean, obviously, people aren't always being quiet because it's still coming out.
Right. And yeah, I don't know. So, and interestingly enough, you know, you watch UFO documentaries and they talk about Men in Black, and they say that the witnesses will say during an interview, yeah, they showed up and told me not to talk about it, or else something's going to happen. Well, they're now talking about it, you know. So I mean, maybe they're like you said, maybe they're just to intimidate. They don't actually follow through with the threats.
Well, reports say that there's very little follow through on a lot of their threats. I think they probably have the authority to, but it's more like, well, these people are going to be thought of like crackpots anyway. So.
You know, I think it's interesting too that most of these reports of Men in Black happened. You know, I mean, you don't hear about them anymore. You know, and I kind of wonder why.
Giving up, because why bother intimidating people? Like I said, I think most people They feel even the believers out there, most of the stuff people go, yeah, right.
Yeah.
Unless
But
it happens
then
to
again,
you.
I did hear a recent report that like 63% of people in America do believe in UFOs and do believe that we're being visited. 63%. That's a lot of people,
Yeah, and the other 40% believe the Earth is flat. So it's
Right.
not saying too much sometimes.
So anyway, what about Dr. Herbert Hopkins?
He was from New Jersey. UFO, part of a UFO research team, helped him explore some of the things that were going on. Excuse me. I am in the wrong section here. That's why I was like, wait a minute, where am I? This is another one of those things where he had been researching UFOs.
Okay.
And I guess he might have hit too close to home because, again, they showed up at his doorstep unannounced within like 5 seconds of phone calls and said that they wanted to talk to him.
Mm-hmm.
So they got up to him, and from his account, what happens is they ask him to take out one of the 2 coins in his pocket. Now, first of all, they knew there was 2 coins in his pocket.
Yeah, that's
Like,
weird.
wait, that's kind of strange. So they takes out a penny. It's nice and shiny and new, and he puts it in his hand, or they put it in his hand, and he's sitting there watching this penny in this guy's hand, and all of a sudden the penny starts turning more like silver, and then it's starting to almost gets blurry and starts fading away, and then just disappears right there in front of his eyes. Now, we've watched magicians do that recently too, but
They close their
anybody-
hand. They can't make it actually dissolve and disappear, though.
Exactly. This is just crazy.
Yeah.
You can't do this stuff for real.
So their attitude was like, you keep talking, and the same thing's going to happen to you. Is that what they're implying?
Now they told him, the basic thing they seems like they tell this a lot, that you continue on with this, we will hurt your family. You or your family. And he actually gave up a lot of his research. So, yeah, I think he moved and became something else. I don't remember what he became.
You're talking about threats, and there's a lot of reports from people that were involved with Roswell, but they weren't from Men in Black. They were from agents from the Air Force coming in and say, you keep talking, you're going to end up in a hole in the desert somewhere.
Right.
So, yeah. And then there was Dr. Bender.
Yeah, Dr. Bender. He was doing research on UFOs, and he was about to publish a paper. And this paper proved basically perfectly that the government was covering up UFOs.
Okay.
Now, he was again told that he could not publish them or else his family would be hurt. And he stopped publishing them. He threw all his stuff away, and he also moved out of town.
Did he? Okay.
But
So he took it seriously.
Right, he took it seriously. It was 3 Men in Black that came and visited him this time, though. And he said he had never been so scared in his life. They really scared the bejesus out of him. He did not think it was a joke. He did not feel that they were joking with him, that they would take this seriously and do what he said, or they said they would do. So what's really strange is that he kept getting mysterious phone calls until he died in 2002.
Is that right?
People would just call and hang up, or they would just be like listening on the edge of the end of the phone. And they don't know why. He never figured out when he was being followed with these phone calls.
Wow. That's very strange.
Yeah, they said after this encounter, he was a totally different man. He was changed.
I imagine so.
He said that his anxiety level was through the roof.
Sure.
He would ramble on. His writings were a mess. They were hard to read.
Really? Yeah.
So,
I don't know how I would take that. If I was doing research into something and I stumble upon something that nobody else had discovered yet, and suddenly these guys show up at my door and tell me and threaten me, I don't know how well I would respond to that, or rather, if I don't know that I would stop. I would feel that it would be my duty as a researcher to report this stuff anyway. My life be damned, I guess. But then again, if they're threatening your family, that's a different story. I mean, if somebody showed up at my door and told me that they were going to put Terry in a hole in the desert, I'd take it a hell of a lot more seriously, I think.
Right.
But yeah. But, and then what about Miller? What's the deal with him?
Okay, Miller actually saw a luminous disc in the sky, and he watched this thing land, and 2 humanoids emerged from it.
Okay.
Now, of course, he gets scared, and what does he do? Fire at them.
Yeah, of course. It's the answer to everything, right? Get a gun.
I'm not even going to go into this whole thing, but yeah, that is one of the things that I fear is if one of these things are true, that people are going to just start firing at aliens if they did land. And it's like,
Yeah. Well, in fact, even in the movie Independence Day, people are firing their guns at these monstrous UFOs like that's going to do any good at all. It's all it's going to do is piss them off.
And remember, what comes up must come down.
Yeah, exactly.
But anyhow, so he fires his gun at injuring ones. He runs back towards his truck, and he gets into his truck, and all of a sudden he realized that it had been almost 3 hours since he had first encountered the ship.
Oh, really?
So he lost a whole block of time. Now, he worked for the Air Force, so he went back, I don't remember what he did, but he went back to his job the next day, and when he got there, again, 3 men in black waiting to talk to him. These guys, how do they know about this stuff? That's, one of the things he says is he told nobody about this. It happened at night. He went home. How did these people know about an encounter?
And that's why I tend to agree that they're not necessarily government agents. They may well be aliens. And the reason they know about this stuff before the government does is because they were there. Yeah.
Well, they told him that they had his file. Okay. What does that mean?
What file?
Exactly.
Yeah.
That I thought was intriguing too. Does that mean that he's been being researched or he's been watched or what?
Yeah.
So, and again, they told him you just better forget about it. And it actually was quite a long time ago that this happened. He just came out with this recently because he's been afraid.
Yeah.
But,
and when did this happen? Do you remember?
Oh, I don't.
It was years ago, right?
Yeah, it was many years ago. It was, I believe, back in the 70s.
Yeah.
If I remember correctly.
Right.
Sometimes I forget to write that stuff down. I went down a rabbit hole sometimes and you lose track.
But there was a DJ, like a radio personality, and it was in Virginia?
Yeah, Wythe County.
Oh, okay. And anyway, his name is Danny Gordon, and he had kind of an interesting little story.
Yeah. That's where there was the Wythe County sightings. That was back in October of 1987. And the sheriff and some deputies, including some military people, all claimed that they had seen a UFO. So it became a hot spot. And Gordon decided he wanted to investigate all this going on. And so he became obsessed with the photos and finding out what was going on. There was even one time where a whole school bus had seen a flight of these UFOs. So he's looking into this stuff, and all of a sudden he gets warned that an ex-military guy that if he continues this, it could cost him everything, and that he should stop looking into it for his family's sake. Now, this is just like not a nobody. This is a radio personality.
Sure, right.
This is somebody that people know. He said he was also interviewed by 2 men in black suits who claimed that they were for a magazine publication. Now, they interviewed him claiming that they wanted to know more about what he knew, that type of stuff, basically his background, what information he's uncovered, etc. Well, after this interview, he called the magazine up, and he found out that there was no such thing as these people and them doing an article on it. So these people lied to him to get information. And since they were in black suits and stuff like that, it makes me think they might have been men in black too.
Right.
At least working for the government.
Yeah.
He ended up having a heart attack from all the stress of this.
Oh, did he really?
Yeah. And he refused to talk about it again.
Wow. Yeah. You mentioned that he was a celebrity. People knew him, through the radio, and And I think it's interesting when celebrities make mention of being a UFO witness or something like that, or having confronted men in black. And we're going to be talking about Dan Aykroyd here in a minute. He had his own encounter with men in black, and he also has witnessed UFOs. And I didn't know that until we found did that show on Men in Black with
Right.
Pop Views, and I didn't know that he was into all that, and I thought, wow, that's kind of interesting. But the reason I bring this up is I was recently chatting with a friend of mine on Facebook, and we kind of got into a little debate because he's one of these people that says, celebrities should mind their own business about politics and world issues, and like the Colin Kaepernick situation, And he said, they should just stick to entertaining and leave their opinions to themselves. And I'm like, well, okay, one name, John Lennon. This is not something new, and people have been using their celebrity to talk about politics and world issues since John Lennon. I want to say he was the pioneer and trailblazer for this, and kind of paved the way for a lot of other people. And so, just because you know who the personality is, doesn't mean that they don't have opinions.
Right.
It
It doesn't give them any more weight either.
Right,
It's still
right.
their opinion.
But people are going to pay attention more to a celebrity.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So sometimes it's good to have a celebrity on your side.
I think so.
It's
Absolutely.
Quickly, real here, politics in general, it's not always you're voting for the person that is right for the job. You're voting for the person you know.
Oh, absolutely.
And that's all.
And I swear that's how Trump got into office. Trump, Reagan, two really good examples of people who were in the entertainment industry. Look at Arnold Schwarzenegger. He became governor of California. It's because of who he was, and not necessarily because of his political standpoints. But anyway. So let's talk about somebody who, or a couple that is a little less well known. And that's Jack and Marie Robinson. And they were UFO investigators, I guess.
Back in 1968, back in New Jersey again.
Uh-huh.
And if you've noticed, New Jersey's come up a couple of times. It seems like there's a lot of stuff on the East Coast that happens.
Hotspot. It is most definitely a UFO hotspot.
Yeah. I don't know why, because you think, Area 51 out the West Coast. Mm-hmm. But yeah, it seems like the New England area has a lot of UFOs.
Yeah, I was looking at a map once, and it showed all the hot spots in America anyway. And Jersey is definitely one. One of the cold spots is actually Minnesota. You don't see a whole lot of. There are some reports coming out of there, but not a whole lot.
That's because there's nothing in Minnesota. Or if they're going to go vacationing, they're going to go vacationing in the interesting spots. Anyway,
someplace not so damn cold.
Jack and Mary Robinson are UFO researchers, like we said, and they were having problems with their apartment being rummaged through. They'd come home and things would be all like someone was looking for something.
Okay.
So I have a feeling they were on the right track about something. But they would see a man standing across the street from their house, of their apartment, and like 3 days in a row, this guy was just standing there all day, just searching, looking up in their apartment area.
Mm-hmm. And they took a photo of the guy. Let me show you guys a photo real quick.
Yeah, this was taken by their friend Tim Green. He went by and said, "I'm going to get a photo."
Yeah. And kind of interesting. I mean, this could be a photo of any guy standing around, but according to their reports, he was there repeatedly. So.
And I guess he's after this he disappeared again, but I don't know. Is it somebody making up something just to get more publicity?
Could be.
Or is it a real story?
I think that could be the case with all of this stuff. Again, even with the celebrities they reported. I mean, maybe they're just looking to get some more publicity. I don't think that's the case with Dan Aykroyd.
No.
I really don't.
But with this person, too, this person ended up not really being anybody. They didn't profit off of this in any way. And this is actually considered one of the first authentic pictures of a man in black.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Well, and another thing, I mean, like I said, it could be all for publicity's sake, but I know that a lot of witnesses that come forward don't make any money on this. You know, I mean,
and a lot of them come forward without saying names.
Yeah, and maybe they want to get their 5 minutes of fame in the newspaper or something. But come on, I mean, even then, I don't really buy that.
Well, if you're not giving your name and you're hiding your voice and everything else, then you know you're not even getting your 5 minutes of fame. You're just telling a story, and to me, that's a little more credible sometimes.
Yeah. Now there are researchers out there that, I mean, they're not saying that they witnessed anything necessarily, but they're doing research on certain things. Then they write books about this stuff. So I mean, they're making money off of it. But I think the witnesses themselves, you know, I mean, I think it's a really rare situation when they make any money off of it. Kind of like the Lutzes with the Amityville. You know, they made money off of it. Okay, so it could easily be said that the whole thing was hoaxed just to make money. But with UFO reports, not so much. Whitley Strieber, who wrote Communion, he made money off of it, most definitely. But, you know, it was about his own encounter.
Right, but then again, 1 in a million, and it was a good book.
Exactly.
Well
Damn
written.
good book, actually.
You know, for fiction or nonfiction, it still kept your interest and was well written.
I didn't like the movie very much. I love Christopher Walken, but I didn't care for the movie. It's just kind of... But the book was good, yeah.
Well, it seems like a lot of this stuff, again, happened in the 60s, too. And I feel that a lot of it had to do with the whole situation with Russia and the whole fear of nuclear war and things like that, things in the sky. That
and, you know, we were going through the racial stuff, tensions back then. I mean, the big time, like the Watts riots and all of that, and the, you know, Black Panthers. And let's face it, white people were scared of everything that moved. You know, I mean, you know, so I mean, with all that stuff going on, Vietnam and all that stuff in Russia, and, you know, people were just paranoid in general, you know, so yeah.
Well, another incident that happened in '67 that I found interesting was the one that happened in Ohio, Toledo, Ohio. Mm-hmm. And it was a man who was driving, Robert Richardson. He was driving home and he ran into a UFO with his car. Mm-hmm. I'm like, okay.
How do you run into a UFO?
Maybe it
was
a car.
How drunk do you have to be?
Exactly. But yeah, he supposedly ran into a UFO with his car, and the thing disappeared and left a big chunk of metal on the ground. So
no insurance information gathered or anything?
Back then, I don't think you were required to have insurance.
Okay.
Remember, this is the 60s. We rode in the back of the trucks without helmets. Anyhow, he sent this to the Aerial Phenomena Research Organization, which was big back then. They researched a lot of this stuff we were talking about, actually. Mm-hmm. And they had 2 men show up asking about the incident. And after they left, talking to him about it, he started to get suspicious. And so the reason is because, again, they told him about his incident.
Okay.
They didn't question him. They told him. Mm-hmm. Now, I know sometimes people get ideas in their head that, you know, oh, well, let's just copy and do those type of things. But I thought that was an interesting thing that keeps coming up, that they know.
They know.
What's already
because
happened.
They were there.
Well, no, we said it before, but that's just every one of them. It's like they knew.
Yeah.
So, anyhow, a week later, they showed back up again, wanting again to get this medal. And of course, he had sent it to the APRO, organization, and they, of course, had it made disappear.
Oh, okay.
So it's never been seen again.
Yeah, of course.
You know, but they were pretty threatening. They told him that if he wanted his wife to remain as pretty as she is, but they better cooperate with him and get that medal back.
See, again, you know, it's the one thing that when they threaten you, you can just kind of go, wow, whatever. But you threaten your family, you got to pay attention to that, you know. So.
And my thought is, why would these people make up some of this stuff? I mean, yeah, maybe he was drunk and hit a tree, but obviously these people have record that he sent this chunk of metal to them and stuff, and that's a pretty elaborate story to make up just for getting in a car accident.
Yeah, definitely. But anyway, let's talk about the star of the show. Let's talk about Dan Aykroyd and his experience. And for those of you who don't know, and it's very likely you don't know, you know, he did have a TV series out there talking about UFOs and that kind of thing. But there was another series that he was working on at one time, and it was actually canceled before it ever got out of the water.
Yeah.
And
Out There.
And Out There was the name of it. That's right. And so nobody's ever seen an episode because it was canceled before it even started. And it's speculated that the reason it was canceled was because, again, he hit on something that was of national security, vital national security, something or other. But anyway, he had a Men in Black encounter. And rather than us tell you about it, we're just going to let him talk about it and hear from it in his own words.
And I was outside, and Britney Spears called me because she wanted me to appear on Saturday Night Live with her. And so I was outside having a cigarette, the phone rang. Oh, Brittany, how you doing? Oh, sure, of course I will. I turned away like this. I turned back, and there was a black Ford across the road, a black Ford sedan. And I was trying to look at the plate, and the plate seemed kind of like fuzzy, and I was, definitely a police car. And two guys were there, and a big, big, tall guy got out of the back seat, and he stood in the street on 42nd Street it was. We were at 42nd Street and 8th Avenue, and he looked right at me. And literally, I was on the phone. Hey, oh, sure, of course I'd love the show. Saw the Ford, went back like this, turned back like a half second later, and it was gone. And that car did not go past me. It did not make a U-turn, because I would have seen 42nd Street. I would have seen that thing take a U-turn and go away. That car vanished. That car was a cloaked vehicle of some type. And whether this was like a warning to me, because the guy got out of the back seat, gave me a real dirty look. That car vanished. I know what I saw. And, it was just this fast. It was, oh, hi, Brittany, sure. Oh, of course, I'd love to. Guy gives me a dirty look. Oh, well, sure. Car gone. That's what happened. And then 2 hours later, we were told we were not to continue taping, and the show was canceled, and none of them would air. I don't know. I don't know. Was that an MIB experience? Black helicopters, military abductions that happen. Sometimes people are taken, and they talk about then being visited by military personnel and debriefed about their abduction. Was it a technology associated with some of these beings that are visiting that wanted to warn me off, or that wanted to give me verification that I was on the right track? I don't know. But I do know I did turn back a second later, and it takes so long for an automobile accelerating from 0 to 40 miles an hour to reach the corner of 8th Avenue and 42nd Street going past me, and then pulling a U-turn and going out towards Times Square. I would have seen that car. And I looked around. I was looking for that, then it was gone.
So, yeah, what do you think of that?
Amazing.
Yeah.
And he doesn't need to make anything publicity about himself.
Right. He needs another $1 million.
Right.
Come on.
And why would he talk about it so openly and just, I don't care. And he says things about a lot of this stuff that he's very much a believer.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah. Yeah. I've watched other interviews with him, and I've seen episodes of the series that did see the light of day, and yeah, he's had his own incidents, and he's a complete believer in this, in the whole UFO thing. And but I think it's interesting that the encounter that he had with the Men in Black just happened so damn fast, with a split second.
Again, they knew what was going on.
Yeah. And and the fact that what did he say? An hour later.
2 hours later.
2 hours later, they get a phone call. No, sorry, you're out. Yeah. Weird, man. So I don't know. What do you think? Do you think that they do exist?
I think they might exist. In fact, I'm going to take that back. I think they probably do exist. I don't think all these encounters are real.
Yeah.
I think some of these are made up, and some of them might be real, but I cannot see it not being true that the government doesn't have people go out and question people, and they might not be called the Men in Black and might not fit the description of the Men in Black, but there's definitely that type of organization out there.
Well, and as I mentioned earlier, researching the Roswell incident, a lot of witnesses were told by government agents, not by Men in Black, but by Air Force agents, to keep quiet about this, and they went out and intimidated them. So no, it may not all be Men in Black, but I think some of them are. Like you, I don't believe some of these things that we reported today, but I think that I would probably believe about maybe half of them. The Niagara Falls incident, for example, right. I completely believe this guy. And the reason I believe him, though, I think is because I'm kind of biased because he witnessed the same kind of UFO that I did.
Well, not only that, that I can see how that would sway you. But one, the tape. Mm-hmm. Two, there's more than one witness. Mm-hmm. And three, what are they getting out of this? Mm-hmm. Obviously, the security guard didn't even want his name released. Mm-hmm.
Well, but then the only physical evidence we have of that situation is the CCTV video footage of them walking in the door. Now, if you look at it from a skeptic's point of view, it is a hotel. It's the Hilton. And it could be a couple of business guys because they were walking in carrying briefcases.
A couple of basketball player
Well, no,
businessmen?
not necessarily. I mean, they look similar. But, I mean, that's from the grainy footage. I mean, so we don't know exactly what they actually look like. They looked about the same size. They were dressed the same way. Perhaps they could have been FBI agents. FBI agents, back when, always dressed in.
I agree. All businessmen look the same.
Yeah, pretty much.
When you have a suit on, unless it's a spectacularly tailored suit or some bright colors or something like that, walking in line, you're going to look the same.
Yeah. Now, that's not to say that they're not men in black. I'm just saying from a skeptic's point of view, that's how they could look at it.
To me, if you, again, when you watch the video, their faces look very blank. And the guy that's in the mail room, putting the mail away or whatever he's doing up in there, you can almost see more detail on his face.
Yeah, absolutely.
So why would theirs be blurred out? Because there's no hair.
And very pale. Very pale.
That's why.
Yeah.
I believe that one.
Yeah. But anyway. So let's wrap it up for the day, we think.
Agreed.
Yeah. So we will be back again on Sunday, and I think I'm going to ask her if she's available. I think we may do another live event with, fingers crossed, fingers and toes crossed, that we're going to do another live event with Anne-Marie Balog, the paranormal medium who's going to be doing toe readings for us. And so... again, fingers crossed. I mean, the first time we had her on was with Pop Views, and we lost Ralph halfway through it.
Couldn't get connected to begin with. You forgot recording. You pushed the record button the first 15 minutes. Everything happened on that show.
And the first time we had her on Black Lotus, we couldn't connect with her for some reason, and it was a live event, and it was really a bust. And then the next week we were going to have her on, and then she fell ill all of a sudden. So I was like, oh, man, So, man, the fourth time's got to be a charm. So fingers crossed we'll be back with her on Sunday. So, and if not, we will definitely have a show on Sunday in any case. So anyway, until then, keep thinking and question everything. Hey, don't forget to like and subscribe and click that little bell so you can get a reminder every time we upload a new episode.